Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's installment of Cichlids and Coffee. I appreciate you all. Appreciate all of you that are here already. I hope you're having a cup of your favorite beverage. I certainly am. So, how are you all doing this morning? Hope you're doing well and starting off a good weekend. I know some of you work on Saturday, and I know some of you are looking forward to that Super Bowl. It'd be exciting. I have a lot of friends in KC. I actually have a friend here in Nashville who is a Kansas City Chiefs maniac. So it's going to be interesting in my social circles. So let's get an AV check. How do things look? How do they sound? Let me know in the chat. That would be great. And while you do that, let me take a look and see who's here. Let's see. Paul Newman, welcome to the Cichlids and Coffee, Paul Newman. Always good to see you, my friend. Waynard Wolmerins, hello to you, Waynard, and Cat Sailors in the house. Good morning. Hey, Adam. I hope you got my email, Adam. I did respond to you. Cat Sailor says, news for the pet world that no one will like. Colorado is considering a pet tax for any and all pets in your home. For fish keepers who have 100 fish, it'll cost them $2,500 a year. Oh, I'm not going to get into it because I'll go all 1776 on you. Who comes up with this stuff? Oh my God. Who's going to come and check? Hi, fish inspection. I'm here to check out your tanks and count your fish. So, anyway, my God. Okay. Angelo, go San Francisco Super Bowl. Let me see. What's the matter? Not making enough on POT. Let me see here. Cat Sailor, Paul Newman. Hey, Fish Ranch in the house. Good to see you. And let's see. 103.2 jazz music. Yeah, that jazz music is for the Cichlids and Suds. It's more of a adult channel evening jazz jazz introduction. Hey, Andy. Andy's in the house. And hey, Dustin Robley is here. A leaking 20-gallon. Oh, no. Less than 9 months old. Is it leaking high or low? Because if it's high, you can lower the water level and kind of hold it off for a while, until you can get to till you can clean it up and reseal it. But if it's low, you're in bad shape. You know, I have a 40-gallon, maybe more. Maybe it's a 50-gallon Rubbermaid tub behind this aquarium right over there. And if there was ever a leak, I would just grab the filter, the heater, the fish, the water, fill up that tub, throw all the fish in. And so definitely have a big tub laying around. You know, you can even use something like a big Rubbermaid trash can. You can use anything that'll hold water, and it'll save the day for you. Hey, Jerry. Jerry's in the house. And one of my wonderful moderators who help keep things moving along. Cruz Aquatics, good afternoon to you, Cruz. I wonder if that aquarium still is under warranty. 9 months? Do they warranty him for a year? You might be able to get a new one. But of course, you get a new one. That doesn't make up for all the inconvenience and problems that having a leaky tank gives you. Paul Newman, sick of Swifties. I'm not gonna risk insulting the Swifty Nation, so I'm just gonna bite my lip on that one. Z Zip, hey Z Zip, William Dyer's in the house. Good morning to you. And let's see, Robin Rayner, good to see you from North Carolina, one of my favorite parts of the country. Miguel Cintrone's in the house. Malcolm's here, Malcolm Reynolds, and good group, just a good group of fish keepers. Dave C. That's the way I talk about the live stream. I say, come join me and a great group of fish keepers. That's you for an hour of fish fun. Hey, Philly, 216 in the house. Blessings to you, my friend. Stephanie McCormick is with us. Good morning to you. Peas and haps forever. What? 250-gallon bow front drilled and everything. $250. Moving and needs basically to give them away. Oh my goodness. Get in the car and go. Hey, GP, another moderator, Salient's in the house. I got some, I've got I've got some muscle in the bouncers. The bouncers are here. Hey, Denny. Good to see you, buddy. All right. Good group. Great group. Michael Lonero, good to see you. How many of you were at the AV is perfect? Thank you, Michael. How many of you were at the Wednesday night live stream, the Cichlids and Suds? That was kind of fun. You know, I hadn't done one of those in a long time. It's a little bit of a different crowd. Hey, Tracy in the house. And just a little bit of a different crowd on Wednesday nights. You know, it opens it up to some folks who just can't make it on Saturdays. And had some fun. Hey, Zen Ginger in the house. Good to see you, Zen. Haven't seen you in a while. I think I maybe got the hours wrong, but I inadvertently was broadcasting, streaming at the same time as Jason over at the Prime Time Aquatics, one of my favorite channels, and didn't mean to crash into his live stream. But at any rate, there's plenty for all of us, I guess. But definitely, Jason's one of my favorites on YouTube for sure. So let's go ahead and make it official. What do you say? All right, let's do some real quick bill paying. What do you think? If you use Amazon, and who in the world doesn't use Amazon, use this link to get there. And then you can go into my store. You can hop off into whatever you want to do, and it will help the channel. So if you access Amazon using that link, it actually gives a small percentage back to the channel and doesn't change your cost whatsoever. If you're if you're looking for some fish, consider my friend Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. Great guy, totally legit, and 15% off. With ben.o.15, you get 15% off on the fish, and ben.o.10 for 10% off on all the dry goods, including his own formula of fish food. So check that out. And a very big shout out to those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis. These are my Patreon supporters. You can see some of your names there. Those of you with asterisks by your name are jumping in for more than the minimum, but you can be a Patreon for $3 a month, as low as $3 a month, and it does give you some behind the scenes insight. I do publish things there that I don't publish elsewhere, and so it's kind of fun, and it really helps me out on certain projects. And last but not least, if you want to pick up some channel swag, consider going to my Teespring store and picking up mugs, teas, and all kinds of good stuff there at the Teespring store. All these links are available underneath the video in the description. So there you go. We paid some bills. No more commercials. How's that? We will be commercial free from here on out. And we'll be taking up some of your questions after I take up today's topic. Let me see here. More folks are jumping on. Hey, what are we, about 70 something? Hey, Whip's World. I just thought about you, Whip, because I know you're the one that came over and said, hey, you were streaming at the same time as the as Jason and Joanne over at Primetime, and didn't mean to crash into them, but they are two of my favorite people on YouTube. DeMar's in the house. Good to see you. Stephen Clark is here. Hello, Stephen. Glad you're here, my friend. Allison is here, and the tank boss has arrived. And Malcolm, I think, did I say hi to you, Malcolm? I think I did. And what is this? I'm not sure if I can even make this out, maybe because it's too small for my old eyes. Bishmil I Roman Rohim. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. All right. I love seeing new names. I love seeing new names on the live stream, and it gives me hope for the future. So, by the way, talking about hope for the future, the channel did break 55,000 subscribers. Thank you, my friends, to all of you who've subscribed, and on to 60,000. I'm celebrating in 5,000 increments, and it doesn't seem like that long ago when the thought of 1,000 subscribers was almost seemed out of reach, and then 10,000 seemed like it would never happen, and here we are at 55,000, and that's you folks. That you folks being so kind and generous and supporting the channel. So let's talk a little bit about today's topic. Fish Fam Link jumping in, asking for thumbs up and likes. Okay, I like that. Thank you, Fish Fam. And I created some notes like I always do, but these are seldom complete. And always as I'm talking about these topics, other light bulbs will go on, and so I can't guarantee you that I will stick to the script. But today's topic is a little bit of a dress rehearsal for the talk I'm going to be giving to the Ohio Cichlid Association the 1st of March at 8 p.m. I will be in Ohio, in Cleveland, talking to the Ohio Cichlid Association. The topic is going to be, how to, recover and rebound from setbacks, and really, kind of stay, be able to stay in the hobby without burning out in the hobby. And all you have to do is look at Gus Frazier in the house. Gus Frazier, Predator Haps. You must love this view, Gus. Sometimes I'm in front of my planted community. This is probably your favorite view of my live stream. But every now and then you'll look on Craigslist, and you'll see you'll see a tank that, like the one that we just talked about here. A person is moving away. A person is they've given up, and they're come get the tank. Got to get rid of it. Make me an offer. And what you're seeing very often, in these classified ads, is you're seeing a burnout. You're seeing somebody who, for whatever reason, and the reasons can be quite a few, they've decided to leave the hobby. And in the years that I've been, on social media and interacting with fish keepers, I get emails, I get comments, I get people contacting, reaching out to me about issues, and there's a few of them that that sort of stand out as reasons for why people don't stay in the hobby. And you certainly can. You probably have a sense for what a lot of them are. I mean, certainly when you're dealing with haps, large cichlids, either African or South or South American, or maybe even more so Central American, the aggression can be a reason that knocks the person out of the hobby, and if not out of the hobby altogether, transitions them to a different kind of fish keeping. They go from keeping haps to planted community tanks, or they go to they start keeping shrimp. They start keeping something that is going to give them more of a sense of relaxation and peace when they're watching their aquarium. I remember, was it My Wet Pets? I think it was My Wet Pets. I think was one of them. And I think half man, half cichlid. I mean, there are lots of examples out there of folks that you saw on Facebook 3 or 4 years ago with big tanks full of aggressive, full of African cichlids, and they're either gone or they're keeping an entirely different kind of tank. And you've got to know before you go with these kinds of fish. And I think the reason I've been able to put together a tank that is relatively peaceful. This Fusco, by the way, would love to bite me. But the reason that I have a tank like this at this particular moment in time, which can change. I mean, we all know that things can change. And certainly if I get some cichlids from Josh and introduce them into the mix, it's going to change hierarchies and pecking order. And there's going to be probably a month or so of chases until it resets. You want a piece of me? You want a piece of me? So the reason really is because of the size of the tank. There's 7 feet here across, 33 inches front to back, 300 gallons. So it's not like there's a limited amount of real estate that each one is fighting to protect. There's a lot of room. I also have things that break up the line of sight, like tall plants that can get, I think fish have very short memories when it comes to chases. It doesn't mean they're not going to pick up the chase when they see you again, but you go behind a plant, they kind of forget about you in some cases. I have things that break up the line of sight, and also I've been very quick, and you know this about me if you follow the channel. I have as much tolerance for jerks as I do for trolls. The jerks get pulled out immediately, just like the trolls get blocked. The jerks get pulled out, and I don't even get into timeouts. I just take them to the fish store, and so just something to keep in mind. And these kinds of fish are not for everybody. Doesn't mean that there's something not right about you, or there's something wrong about. No, it's just a temperament issue. It's not a fish for everybody's temperament. Some people want to sit down, have a glass of wine, and enjoy a peaceful aquarium. Some people want to sit down, have a glass of wine, and watch a pay-per-view. I mean, everybody's real different, And so research, know what you're getting into, and know that if you get into big haps, you're going to need a big tank. You're going to need a lot of water movement, a lot of filtration. You're going to need to be quick to address aggression. You're going to have another tank up and running and ready to put a fish into that's been beat up, or to take a jerk out. And that tank has got to be right there and ready to go. And so, just some of the realities about this. So that's one of 5 points. One of the 5. Actually, it's a bonus point. It wasn't even on my list. I was talking to you about how I tend to wander on these lists, and I went right into aggression and just threw the list away. So aggression can knock people out of the hobby. What else can knock people out of the hobby? Illness. Illness can knock people out of the hobby. Not necessarily your illness, which can do it. People get sick, can't take care of the fish. I've seen people get serious back issues. They can't lift up buckets. They can't work on their tanks. They leave the hobby. But I'm talking about the illness that can be introduced into an aquarium. Now, with each of these points that I'm going to be talking about, there are some things that could have been done on the front end that would have made that person, those fish, less predisposed to these problems. So let's talk about illness. Okay, what are some of the obvious things? Well, keeping up with your tanks, right? Making sure that maintenance is in. You don't let them become a polluted mess. So maintaining your filters, gravel vacuuming, water changes. But what else? Quarantine new fish for at least a month. And by the way, I've got my blue Congo tetras in the 90-gallon, and they're looking pretty nice. So I think there's a video right after this live stream today. There's going to be a video, and it'll show you the transition of the Congos, the blue Congos, over to the 90-gallon. But they were in quarantine for over 30 days. I kept a real close eye on them. I looked at the fins. I looked at their activity. I looked at the way they were eating, behaving, displaying color. I was looking at making sure that they were interacting, that they had some kind of swagger, right? And they met all the criteria. They were attacking their food. They were active. They were showing good color. Fin displays were good. And if those things were not there, they would have stayed in quarantine longer. And if anything would have shown up, I would have medicated them. But they were looking good, so I brought them over. So quarantine, often neglected. It's one of those things where because it hasn't introduced an illness to a person's aquarium, they think that they're okay. Oh, I've been putting fish right into my tanks forever, never had a problem. So because it's never happened, does that mean it never will? So it's one of those ounce of prevention type of things. So I highly recommend, even when buying or acquiring fish from a trusted local source, consider quarantine. Another thing, if you can do this, if it appeals to you, having different equipment for different tanks. And by that, what I mean is there are folks out there who have different hoses and different nets for each aquarium. They invest, $5, $10? So they have in each tank, and that tank has its own net. They invest a bit more, but tanks will have their own siphon systems. So they don't, the chances of cross contamination, which is real, something that hasn't shown up, especially if you're doing a water change in a quarantine tank and it's day 10 and those fish are about to show you colomaris, and you siphon that tank and then you use the same hose and you go siphon one of your main tanks, and then you've got colomaris in all your tanks. Colomaris that you would have prevented had you kept the quarantine tank completely isolated with buckets and siphon hoses and nets, right? So if you're going to have separate equipment, at least have separate equipment for your quarantine tank. Don't share equipment from that tank to other tanks. But in an ideal world, we'd have hoses and buckets and nets for each tank, and that would prevent cross-contamination. So also anyone who's getting into the hobby, I do suggest that you go ahead and access some videos. Not necessarily mine, because I might not have the biggest library. I do have a playlist on fish illness, but there's a lot of great videos out there. And just become acquainted with how these different diseases present themselves. How does fungus look compared to a bacterial infection, compared to velvet, compared to ick, compared to parasites? How are they different? How does colomaris present itself? And just get a familiarity with some of these diseases so you can grab the right med quickly, and by the same token, have a few of the general, the more common meds, like your ICX, your API General Cure, your Metro, your things like that. Have some of the common medications, have them on hand, and keep an eye on them to make sure that they're not past their expiration dates, because they do lose potency. So the next point number, I have it listed as 2, but it's technically point number 3, that can knock a person out of the hobby or create a burnout. As one of you mentioned right here in the chat, having a leaking tank. And you go up to your aquarium expecting to check on those awesome fish. You notice the water level is down 3 inches, and immediately something's wrong. You start to panic. You notice that the carpet feels like a wet sponge, or the hardwood is stained. There's a puddle. It's an immediate panic, right? You start looking around. You see that there's an accumulation of moisture in the back of the aquarium, and you notice that some drips are coming out midway down the seam of the back corner. This is actually it's like a panic. It's like a panic moment, and you hate to see it. All of us at some point have had something like that. What can you do? Well, a couple things you can do to prevent that, because sometimes that happens. A person will lose stock, don't really have the funds to replace, don't want to get into a resealing. That's it. They're done, at least for now. So make sure your aquariums are level. Just get yourself a little inexpensive level, and make sure your aquarium is level, and use shims, these kinds of things, shims, and get that aquarium as level as you can, and that will help to not put a disproportionate amount of pressure on a certain section of the aquarium. Also, the use of pads, in particular on your bigger tanks, like 75-gallon on up, using aquarium pads can help to distribute weight. Also, if you're using heavy decor, real rocks, as opposed to maybe universal rocks, which don't weigh anything, but real rocks like the ones I have in this aquarium, you can use fluorescent ceiling light diffusers. These are those hard plastic squares that they use on as a grill, as a diffuser on a neon light in a ceiling light. You can buy those at hardware stores. You can shape them. You can cut them to shape. Put them under your substrate to distribute the weight of the rocks. And that will help to prevent getting a bottom crack from just putting too many rocks, too much weight, or in the event that you drop a rock, you're working on the aquarium and you drop a rock and you get a bottom crack. And of course, a bottom crack, that's it. That tank is done. It's done. Just throw it out. So things like that might actually save the day for you. So leaks, I'll tell you, are that can knock people out of the hobby. I remember Adam C. He had a 300-gallon Marineland tank, and he came downstairs. I think he had a concrete floor, so his floors were okay, but that thing was just spewing water, and the water level was down. And yeah, Marineland replaced the tank. It was under warranty, but man, oh man, talk about a 911. All right. What else can knock a person out? Here's one that'll knock you out. How about, and I've seen this too many times. People write to me about how a heater malfunctioned and cooked their fish, essentially boiled their fish. So I think the lifespan of a heater is, I don't know, what is it, 2 to 4 years is the recommended lifespan when you should consider replacing heaters. But you can let them run longer, and you hear of people that have been running heaters for 10, 20 years, no problems. But, my advice, and this, if you watch the channel, run those heaters, especially if you're running big heaters. I've got like a 1,800 watts on this 300-gallon tank. Between the heater I have in the sump and the heater I have in the tank, there's 2 heaters. A malfunction could be, with that kind of wattage, could be pretty devastating. So run your heaters through a controller if you can. And a controller is something that you plug your heaters into, and it has its own sensor that goes into the aquarium, and it can tell when you've hit your desired temperature, and then it cuts the power off. Cuts the power off to the heaters. That makes the chance of overheating impossible. So I tell you, controllers they're just worth their weight in gold. The ones I have are from Gemco over in, I think, where are they? New Jersey? Gemco. They make these super heavy duty ones. Make sure that the wattage of your heaters that you're going to be using, make sure that the controller is rated to handle that much wattage. If you pick up a controller that's rated for up to 500 watts and you're running 1,500 watts of heater, you're probably going to get a malfunction. So make sure that the controller is rated correctly. But a heater failure. Now, another reason that I hear about heater failures is because a person does a water change, lowers the water level too far, and doesn't have the kind of heater that will shut off. Because there are heaters that will detect a lower water level and shut off. Some of the newer ones. But some of the older ones don't do that. They just keep cooking, and they will blow up. They'll crack. They'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. So a way to avoid that is keep your heaters low in the aquarium. If it's a long tubular, like one of those long Eheims, turn it so it's horizontal. Make it horizontal and then low in the aquarium. And that way you can do a pretty big water change, and the heater is never uncovered. I mean, ideally, unplug the heaters when you're doing water changes. But how many times have I heard from people that they forgot to plug them back in? They fill up the tank and it's dinner time, or right? They go off, they go do something, and they don't plug it back in. Sometimes people do that with the filters, right? I think Whip was telling me a story recently about they just stopped. They just got distracted, went off to do something, didn't plug the filter back in, and the filter was breaking up the surface. So now the fish don't get any oxygen. You come downstairs to check on the fish before you go to bed after dinner. 3 or 4 of the fish are dead. And you're like, whoa, what's going on? And you realize, whoa, I didn't plug things back in. So I usually will leave my filters plugged in. I can't do that with the sumps, of course, because the water level goes below the intake. But I'll let my canisters run, and I'll keep the heaters low in the aquarium so that I don't even have to unplug them. But always do a walk around inspection after every major bit of work. And one bonus tip on that, on equipment failures, is having backup and spare parts. If you have an equipment failure and you notice it before you go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, your canister or your hang-on back is dead as a doornail. What are you going to do? Your fish stores are all closed. So it's a good idea. Buy yourself an inexpensive hang-on back. Open up that canister, get some of the sponge media out of it, shove it into that hang-on back, and plug it in. And at least you'll have some water movement and some beneficial bacteria, activity until you can actually get a replacement for that larger canister or fix it. But definitely having backup, and the other tip that I give, right? I borrowed this one from the airline industry. Have redundancy. Right? The wing controls have cables, and then there's cables that back up those cables, and there's cables that back up those cables. Have redundancy so that if something fails, if my sump fails, my canisters keep working, my canisters being serviced, my sumps are running, right? One heater fails, the other heater's running. So have backups and redundancy if you can. All right. So why else? Why else would somebody leave the hobby? And this one is one that that comes up every now and then, and some of you might be going through this right now. Who on the chat has multiple tank syndrome and has what would qualify for that? Who has more than 10 tanks? Who has more than 15? Who has more than 20? Tell me in the chat if you have a large number of tanks. Multiple tank syndrome, it's real. And there should be support groups, right? Where a person will come in and sit down and say, I have multiple tank syndrome. I have 15 tanks. It's been 25 days and I haven't bought an aquarium. After a year, you get like a token, right? So what can happen with multiple tank syndrome, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have a lot of tanks. It becomes a bad thing when it turns your hobby into work. And now instead of enjoying your hobby, it's just every day there's an hour or two of something that's got to be done. One tank is leaking. One tank, one block of tanks needs work. Another, it's like, and you have a full-time job, you have a family, you have other things that are pulling on you, and you were having a lot of fun. You were really enjoying the heck out of it, and it was exciting, and you were pumped. And then, but recently, it's turned into work. So what happened is the multiple tank syndrome took you over the number of tanks that you could comfortably maintain while maintaining a balance in your life, right? You could still go fishing, spend time with the kids, ride your bike, or because all these things take from somewhere, right? So I tell people who have that, I tell them go back to the number of tanks when you remember when you were having the most fun. Go back to that. Go back to that number of tanks. So this person sitting there with 15 tanks, they go, man, back when I was really loving it, I had 3 tanks. Okay. I mean, you might want to consider scaling back to 3 tanks. Go back to when you were having the most fun and recreate that, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But multiple tank syndrome, I mean, I could definitely get more tanks. I could clear out some things in this garage and create a few more banks of tanks. But I'm telling you, between being a grandpa and a husband and father and other things that I enjoy, bike riding, fishing with my sons, going to the range, doing things that I love, I've got about as much time, and being a YouTube creator, which takes a lot of time to be a YouTube creator. So I've got it at right about the right amount right now. And another bank of tanks would put me over the edge. Would probably put me over the edge, where it would go into the realm from fun into the realm of work. And I never want the hobby to do that. And I love work, but what I mean is more, not even work is not even the right word, because I like work. I would say drudgery. It becomes a chore. And I never want it to be a chore. Right now, I love doing water changes. I love doing maintenance. I love cleaning up a filter. I love watching the fish respond to those changes and blossom and show color and all that, and want to bite me. All right. Point number 6. I guess we're into the bonus zone now. The point number 6, and this is one that I've talked about in a lot of videos, and this says a lack of research, a lack of know before you go, right? Every one of these points, I've almost every single one of them, except maybe multiple tank syndrome, but I've violated every one of these, and probably in particular, lack of research, lack of know before you go, right? Whether it's the impulse buy of a fish, the jumping in and trying to sort of guess at how to put a sump together, hit and missing with plants and failing several times before I got it, different things, wrong tank mates, just the usual mistakes, right? And so we're so impulsive. It seems to me that just sort of as a species in general, we can be very impulsive. And you see that beautiful fish, you bring him home. You find out later that he gets up to 17 inches long, and you've got him in that 20-gallon. What are you going to do? So really know before you go as much as you can, as much. And these days, I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video. I have a video that's coming out based on the comments at my community page on a topic called the stupidest things I ever did in the hobby. And I got a pretty good response to that question. And that video is going to be out probably Sunday. And it's going to talk about the comments that were made under that video. And a lot of it had to do with a lack of research before getting into certain projects, certain kinds of fish, certain combinations of fish. So a lack of research, fish compatibility, the tank size you're going to be needing, the kind of filtration for that kind of fish? Can you have a lot of water movement? Should you not have water movement for that kind of fish? Can you have plants? Can you not have plants? What about basics like pH, right? Your hardness, temperature. What are the temperature preferences of that fish? Just a whole mix of things that you can find out about. And these days, what about diet? Does that fish need a lot of protein? Do they need vegetables in their diet? I mean, someone told me geos need fruit in their diet. How are you going to provide that? So again, research, know before you go. And these days, all of us are carrying a great research tool right in our pocket. You go to the fish store, and I saw a jewel cichlid the other day. Was absolutely gorgeous, reddish, had like a hot pink red jewel cichlid, gorgeous fish. Pulled out my phone, Googled it, went onto a couple forums, and he's pretty, but he's going to be a troublemaker probably. A gorgeous fish. But right now we can do research right in the fish store. So there's no excuse really these days for not doing a little bit of research. So I think the kind of the key words here on what knocks people out of the hobby, and if I had to kind of boil it all down to just a few key points, it would be a lack of patience. A person rushed something. They rushed a quarantine. They rushed adding fish before a tank was cycled. They didn't have the patience to research. Patience, key. Things blow up, and they think that fish keeping isn't for them. Fish keeping is for them. They just didn't have the patience. The other thing is watching distractions, because a lot of the things I hear about that are catastrophic. A person overfilled a tank, water went everywhere. A person forgot to plug filters back in, forgot to plug heaters back in. A lot of these things come back to distraction. They were distracted. One person mentioned to me the other day, leaving a small child. They ran off to do something, came back. The child had dumped a bunch of powdered chocolate into the aquarium. This is from a real comment. So, distraction. People get distracted, right? And probably the last one is persistence. This hobby requires a certain degree of persistence. And by that, what I mean is getting back on the horse after you get knocked off. Being on YouTube, you know, when I haven't withheld or not disclosed when I've been knocked off the horse. And if you go through my library of videos, right? What have I got? 1,100, 1,200 videos. And you type disease, ben.o.cichlid, fish death, ben.o.cichlid. If you do those searches, you'll come across a good number of videos where I've been knocked off the horse. And I got knocked off the horse publicly. So knocked off the horse, but my foot was still in the stirrup. So I got dragged through town, and everybody got to see. Isn't that Ben being dragged by his horse? So it required me saying, okay, what do I do? Do I shut down the channel for a little while and recover? But all of us at some point in the hobby have got to get back on the horse. We have some type of an unexplained, and these are the hardest ones, the unexplained die-off. You get hit with an unexplained die-off. You can't figure out what happened. Something happened. We forgot to condition. We didn't temperature match. Something came in from the faucet that was nasty. uh, something. There's always a reason, but we can't find out. We can't figure it out. It drives us crazy. And we get a setback. And very often that's where people go, I'm done. I'm done. I've had it. I'm going to put it all on Craigslist, or I'm going to store the tanks in the garage, and maybe I'll get back to it later. But this tank or this hobby requires you to have persistence, to be stubborn, and to not give up. Some stick-to-itiveness, right? Otherwise, I'll tell you, you're not going to last long, because we all have setbacks. We all hit a wall at some point. I don't care who you are. The most major, influential people on Facebook have had devastating setbacks. Some have talked about it. Some have kept it to themselves. They've all had setbacks, I assure you. So, at any rate, that's my 2 cents. And yeah, the fish are listening to these. They always tune in every Saturday. These are the most loyal live stream. You guys listening to the talk? Buccochromis rhodesii yellow is absolutely spectacular. The Fusco is spectacular. I mean, look at this hawk. Let's do the fish cam. When this Fusco gets all blue, watch out. When he loses the pattern in the body, you better watch out, because he can get pretty fired up. Spectabilis back there that really doesn't get a lot of love. Spectabilis. And come on over into the camera. Look at this bucco, how beautiful this Buccochromis is. Love this Buccochromis. Come on over here, guys. See, the Fusco has no fear whatsoever. Okay, here comes the trout. Now, I don't know if the trout's the boss anymore, because I think the Fusco is almost as long and so much bulkier. Let's give him a little treat. This says big fella, but you know me. What I've got in here, check it out. I've got 4 or 5 different kinds of foods in here. I've got the red wigglers, extreme red wigglers. I've got big fella. I've got, what else? Let me see. Bug bites. There's some bug bites in here. There's some Sarah cichlid food, and a couple types of Northfin. Now, I'm going to risk doing this, and I say risk because they might just splash my computer, but hold on. Hungry little pigs. I think I even have some veggie in here, a little bit of veggie. There's just a little bit of everything. I'm real big on variety. My theory, and interestingly enough, the folks over at Sarah agree with me, that no one food contains everything that your fish need. No matter how much research has gone into it, And I'm a big believer in Piscine energetics, frozen krill, Sarah, Extreme, Northfin. Those are all wonderful formulas, but they all have differences. They all have nuances, differences in percentages between protein and fat. What I don't like is to see fillers or dyes or a lot of wheat products, and certainly no soy or corn or anything like that. But I do provide a mix to cover all the bases, because all of them, I think all of them are well intended. I don't think anyone has it 100% nailed, and so I give them a variety of food. That's my thinking behind it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this is called the close-up cam. I didn't mean to scare you. All right, let's take a look at some of your questions and see what you got going on. If you have a question for me, go ahead and ask me now, and I'll put you on the screen. Boy, that chat is like flying by. Look at that thing. All right, let's see here. Michael Laudanero, that, my friend, is one of the key indicators for me moving a fish out of quarantine. Is the fish aggressively attacking the food? And if they're laying back and not aggressively attacking the food, they don't get moved out of quarantine. So that's a very important point. Let me see here on the chat. Why has my chat? There it is. Okay. Hagen Hill Design in the house. Well, Hagen Hill Design, will our Salvini dig less if we give her a cave? Mine has a cave and dug a massive pit in front of it. So I can't guarantee that would happen. I think Salvinis will keep digging. Even if you give them a cave. They're diggers. I've been shocked at how much the red terror digs, where he'll take all the gravel in the back half of the aquarium and move it to the front half. I mean, it's like he's using like a front load backhoe or something, right? Like a front loader. I mean, I can't believe how much over just a few hours. And then I'll get in there and I'll move it all back. I noticed there were some detritus worms on the back wall, so I went in there and I did a real good vacuuming and I leveled out the substrate. And he's got the back all bare bottom again. So he's a massive digger. But yeah, the Salvini, I don't know why. She just likes digging that big porch, that big pit porch right in front of her cave. So I think it's just her way of claiming that area. But I do recommend you get her a cave, because it gives her a place where he or she can chill out, and something they can protect without question. Nobody gets near that cave. Nobody dares to go in that cave. And the funny thing is, when I brought over the big cave that the red terror was using, she went over and claimed that one too, and then nobody would get in it. So I strongly recommend you get a cave for your Salvini. My caves are from Unique Underwater Galleries. Unique Underwater Galleries. Tell them that Ben Ochart sent you. Maybe they'll give you a discount. All right, let's see here. So I'm looking at your comments. Hey, Lady Diane, glad you're here. Ken AJDK in the house. Had to run. Oh, okay. Lucky is here. Hi, friends. Have a crazy green tear and don't know which cichlid can put together with her. Try electric blue Acara and never stop, attack them. You know, Lucky, you know my viewpoint. I mean, some fish are you know, they're just nuts. They're just nut jobs. And you can try different combinations. You can redecorate. You can lower the temperature. You can give them a timeout. All this stuff. And then you put them back in, and they just pick up right where they left off. Now, I have a green tear that I got from the blind fish keeper, who seems pretty mellow, but he's very small and subdominant. That could change as he puts on size. I also have a Jack Dempsey that seems mellow. But again, you're looking at a smaller fish. I have a firemouth, but he's kind of kept in check by everybody. So sometimes it depends on the sizes. Maybe get a bigger fish in there that can put him in check. Maybe get an Oscar. I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough call. But if it's a real true jerk fish, it's going to be a long road for you. And ultimately, you'll probably end up getting rid of them. How old and big is your Venusis? My Venusis I suspect is probably at least 3 years old, maybe more. And I would put him at about 7 to 8 inches. He is a bit of a runt as far as Venusis go. The Fusco was picked up smaller than the Venusis. And if you compare the Fusco to the Venusis, the Fusco is like a third to twice as large in length and girth and just weight. So he's a bit of a runt. He's a runt fish. And I've had Fuscos in the past that got up to 10 inches real quick. This one is not doing it. He does hold his own. He doesn't get bullied. He's still a Venusis. So there's a lot of fight in that dog, as they say, right? Not the size of the dog, but the amount of fight in the dog. I tell you who surprises me with regards to holding their own is the Kawingi. You don't think of a Kawingi as an aggressive fish, but my Kawingi, if I can get him over here, he's just a beautiful fish. But the Kawingi holds his own and has become very, very large. So, hey, Brian Hahn in the house. Any other questions? Go ahead and hit me while we're on the chat. Let me enlarge the chat so I can read it. Lady Diane, does all krill stink? My Sarah sample you have me in Ben gives me a headache. Well, yeah, some of these fish foods can be a little nasty smelling, and it is a seafood product. How do the fish react to it? If the fish go after it and are very enthusiastic, I'd put up with it. But yeah, it can be smelly. And I'm sorry it gives you a headache. That's not good. I certainly wouldn't eat it. Frozen krill doesn't seem to smell. Maybe because it's it's flash frozen right when they catch it. And these guys do get frozen krill. They also get krill flakes. I have some of the Sarah or some of the Northfin krill gold, and I also have the big flakes. They do get some of that about once a week. And I give black worms and frozen worms to the other fish. These guys don't get frozen bloodworms. I've heard it can be a little bit hard on their digestive system. And as you know, Malawi cichlids are prone to bloat, so I don't give them something that might be hard to digest. Ronald, lost track of time, missed the best live stream. Oh, well, that's very nice of you, sir. Thank you for that. Nice of you to say, and I'm glad you're here now. Jerry's Fish Room, you didn't mention cost increasing. Well, you know, that's an important point, Jerry, and something that as we get into multiple tank syndrome, there's that sort of item that we don't think about, right? I want to have bigger tanks. I want to have bigger fish. I want to have. Well, I talked about that. I think there's a video you can share it, maybe Jerry or one of the moderators, before you buy that big tank, before you buy that monster tank. I think it was, I released it about a week or so ago. Seems to be trending pretty well, but there's a lot of, there's just a lot of factors. Bigger heaters, 1,000-watt heaters are going to suck a lot, cost a lot more than running a 50-watt heater. Feeding these fish cost a lot more than feeding a 20-gallon planted. You go through a lot of food. You need a lot of wattage for your heating, a lot of wattage for your filtration, a lot of wattage for your lights, right? I've got $250 in lights on here, and those aren't expensive lights, relatively speaking. I've got $200 in substrate, in Carib Sea substrate. I've got a couple $100 in pumps, a DIY sump that I saved money on, some rock quarry rocks that I saved money on. I've got $120 in matten sponges in the sump from Swiss Tropicals. Right, I've got a $100 controller from Gemco, heavy duty controller. So there's a lot of, and then the ongoing use of utilities, water, electricity. I'll tell you one thing though, moving from California to here, my utilities are probably a third what they were in California. So keeping big tanks that need lots of water, big water changes, sucking up a lot of juice, it's a lot more doable here than it was in California. And if you're working from home, it doesn't matter where you live, right? So that was when it comes to fish keeping, that was a very good move. All right. All right, so Ronald looks like he set up a tank 2 months ago. I now have some new pumpkin seed mollies and fancy guppies are pregnant. If those fish are getting pregnant, that tank must be in good shape. Usually fish won't get, they don't breed when, I mean, there are some crazy live bears that'll breed under any conditions, but for the most part, they're breeding and fry are a good sign that your aquarium is on track. Molly's fancy guppies are pregnant. I also have a pair of blue Mabuna and dragon blood mix getting ready to strip and tumble. Now, those are not in the same aquarium as your mollies, right? That would be first of all, they would probably get eaten eventually. The fry will get eaten for sure, but I'm hoping you're talking about different tanks. I do suggest you pick up some hornwort. The hornwort, Sprite works too, but hornwort will hide those fry and let them put on some size. And I'll tell you, I've been crushing Extreme Community, but I also been using what is called North Fin Fry Starter. It's like talc powder, very highly nutritious, but it's very small, and the smallest fry can eat it. So North Fin Fry Starter, good stuff. Check it out after those fry are born. Throw some hornwort in there, and those fry will have a chance to survive and hide. All right. Any more questions you want to hit me with before we wrap up here? So Waynard is looks like he's been picking up tanks secondhand. You can, let me tell you, there are a lot of ways to save money. Social media is vile. Oh, I love that name of that. There are a lot of ways to save money. Buying used tanks, not being afraid to reseal an older tank. You know, you can DIY things like your sumps. You can buy rocks at the rock quarry. You can use rocks from the hardware store. You can go out and harvest driftwood if you don't mind really spending the time to clean it up, like I did with the wood in my 210. So there are a lot of ways to save money. If I had bought the driftwood in my 210, I probably would have paid over $100 for that wood. But I found it floating in a local lake, brought it home, left it out in the sun for a while, dried it out, sanded it, sprayed it down. Really, I think I might have even used a little bit of, I don't think I used anything too strong on it. I didn't use any bleach on it. Maybe some peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, maybe on a few spots. But yeah, that's probably over $100 for that driftwood. All right. So with that in mind, you know what? Big shout out to all of you for sitting in today. Big shout out to all of you who are subscribed, to my Patreon supporters, to my wonderful moderators, and also to those that back up my channel, like Patreon members, the Aquarium Co-op. Big shout out to the Aquarium Co-op. Big shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. All right. And with that being said, I think we're good to go. Let's go enjoy the weekend. And I'm not sure who I'm rooting for in the Super Bowl. We'll see. And I guess Kansas City is closer to me, but I tell you, San Francisco has a spot in my heart because I was a big Montana fan. Jerry Rice, that whole gang back then. Boy, I used to love watching the 49ers. But you folks take care. Have a wonderful weekend. You are the best. And I'll see you again soon. Watch for a video right after this live stream. It's probably already available. Go check it out. Bye-bye.